purpose of this video is to talk to you a little bit about Betsy here. She's a real sweet little girl. Oh, did you have to yawn, Betsy? Good girl. She's a very sweet little girl, but she's probably the first dog in my rescue organization that I would probably officially call special needs. Betsy. Betsy, pay attention. Pay attention. Okay, special needs simply means they need something special. It could be something big and it could be something very, very simple. In Betsy's case, I'm going to say it's probably about as simple as it gets. She has to have some topical ointment put on the top of her nose once a day, probably, possibly, not necessarily probably, but possibly for the rest of her natural life. And that might seem weird to some people, but it isn't to me, because that's really what rescue's all about. It's about giving a dog a chance for something that maybe somebody else isn't going to give them a chance for. When I saw Betsy in the shelter, I saw that the top of her nose was very pink. And as you could see right now, Betsy's nose is quite nice. There might be just a little hint of the pink on top of her nose being there. I know you like to give me love bites, but let's not do that. Okay. Good girl. There's your ball. Oh, good girl. But other than a maybe slight hint of it, her nose is looking really black and is looking really fantastic. Why? Because I did take this topical ointment and put it on the top of her nose every day for a couple of months, and her nose that was once pink on the top has now restored itself back to being black. Get it, Betsy. Now, why is this? Well, it's called collie nose, and it's common among some dogs, collies, to be specific, and other breeds, Springer Spaniels, and just some other types of dogs. Not so much small dogs, but nevertheless, it's called collie nose, probably named after the fact that collies typically get it. And what it is a condition that affects the pigment. And since there is only pigment on the dog's nose, therefore the condition, if you want to call it that, is limited only to the nose. It absolutely does not affect any other part of Betsy. And in fact, we've spent a considerable amount of money and medical testing to be able to assure you of that fact, that there's nothing systemic at all going on. She just has a nose that would have the propensity to become pink on the top if not for this topical ointment that actually stops the condition from affecting the pigment. The other thing with Betsy is that if she's going to be out in the sun, like if she's going to take a walk or be outdoors or something, that she's going to need some sunscreen to be put on the top of her nose. And she basically needs to be a house dog primarily, but all these small dogs, in my opinion, really need to be a house dog primarily. That should be their primary role, is to be a house dog. So anyway, this is Betsy, and I thought it best to make a video of her, more or less speaking to her nose condition, which again is a pigment condition. It's called collie nose. But I do also have, a lot of other videos of her playing with other dogs and doing other stuff. Because again, I've had her for a while because I wanted to make her nose pink. I mean, from being pink to being black. It's a bit of a, I guess you could say it's a bit of a cosmetic flaw, if you will, when you see a dog in the shelter or a dog in photographs that has part of the nose that looks like it was sunburned. And that's actually what it looked like. It looked like the top of her nose was sunburned. But now it looks just simply divine. Hey, Betsy. Hey, Betsy. Hey, Betsy. Want to show everybody your nose? And she has the cutest little underbite in the world. So anyway, we would like you to read her bio. On Pet Finder, it's a button that says click here to read more about this pet. And there you can read a more specific bio about her. It's a written bio, but this is just a video kind of explaining a little bit about the nose and just letting you know that these are darling dogs, these dogs that have these little conditions, whatever it may be. We certainly don't want people to hold it against them. I think that what I've realized since being a rescuer is I've realized that so many of the dogs... Betsy, please stop giving me love bites. Okay? What I've realized about some of the dogs is that there are certain ones that everybody wants. Everybody's sort of competing over these one or two adorable dogs, and then there's so many of them that just go unnoticed. For various different reasons. And I always teasingly say that it's Match.com for dogs. But anyway, enough of that. Betsy's 2 years old. She's a female. She's darling. She's lived with me long enough that I completely 100% totally trust her. She is crate trained, but she doesn't need to be crated because she is so trustworthy. She actually sleeps free in the house and usually finds herself at some point during the night up on the bed and sometimes even under the covers with me. Right, Betsy? So we're looking for a wonderful home for Betsy where people can appreciate her and the person who adopts her won't mind getting this particular topical ointment. And I can talk more about that with someone in person. Betsy, come here, girl. Come here, my sweet girl. Come here, my sweet girl. Come here, my little sweet girl. Good girl. Good girl. Good girl. Good girl, Betsy.